Time for the Tesla and Palantir weekly update. Starting off with Tesla here on the linear scale fib chart, and we can just take a look and see that price actually did finally close back above this 786 fib, right? This is from the previous high in 2021 and the low in 2023. It finally closed back above 347.58. So is this going to be our support? Well, maybe not so fast. And the reason why is there still is a lot of resistance above, and let's walk through it. So we're going to see on log scale, we still have the 886 that we have not even touched. So yeah, we could continue higher a little bit first before lower, but I think this is going to be the start of something bigger resistance zone, 353.19. Also, when you put on the moving, or not the moving averages, but the Ichimoku here, we can see that the baseline is also there right here at 351.39. So this is also a resistance zone right before that 886. So even though it did close above this linear scale, 347.58, it's not clear sailing just yet. There's many layers of resistance. So I just mentioned two of them, right? The 353.19, the 351.39. Let's talk about a few more. We'll go to the log scale GAN right here. Let's just take off the Ichimoku so we can see it clearly. And what else sits up there? That's right. It's the ARC that is up there. And next week, that ARC is right around 355, maybe 356, 357 in that zone. So again, we could continue higher just a little bit before we kind of get rejected. And there's one more level of resistance up there, and that's the linear scale GAN, which is right here at 358. So this was the breakdown level. And we know that was the breakdown level simply for the fact that price broke through that orange level very, very easily, right? It stopped there on the way up for a few weeks, 3 weeks to be exact. Then it broke out, went to the 45-degree angle, got rejected, and then it did stall out here for a couple of weeks, but you can see each weekly candle flipped it to a resistance, so that was the setup to go much lower. So that was really the clue right there, but then it found symmetrical support down here, so we just need to be prepared for a back test. And with all this resistance from the 348 all the way up to the 358, maybe 360 if any wicks above. So where would support be? Well, let's go back to our linear scale fib right here. We can take a look that, well, if it does get rejected in this zone, could it come back down to the 320s? Well, let's look at the confluence in that area. So we have the linear scale 702 at 321.32. Go to log scale. We have a log scale 786 back at 306. So that's even lower than 320, right? We can even put on some of the moving averages as well. And does that help us at all? And not really, right? The 285, 50-week moving average is down there. The conversion line is down there at 282. But we could see a back test in the 320s or a little bit lower, right? That could be a possibility for this chart, and we can even do one step further, go to the Bollinger Band here, and we can see that the weekly 20-week moving average is also around that 320 zone, which is 318.48. So we're not out of the woods just yet, and sometimes when prices do break out higher, they do need to go back and back test a level, and maybe with this Moody's downgrade news, perhaps we do need to go do a back test first before breaking higher. So this is now once a very bearish looking chart is now very bullish again. All we're looking for now is a potential back test, and if we can't break through this 350 zone soon, then we might need to retest the 320s or even a little bit lower, the 306, before breaking higher. So this is a very good looking chart. Do not be afraid of back tests. Now that they're on top of levels, they can be your best friend. Now it's time for Palantir, and Palantir we're going to start on linear scale first with the linear scale fibs and the linear scale GAN. So we can see that the 108.23 did hold perfectly last week, and this week the blue level of my GAN that I mentioned for a few weeks now, the 114 zone, that also has held. So it's a very beautiful breakout back test, and it looks like it's building a nice base on top. So now that we have this Moody's downgrade of the U.S. debt news, is this going to send it back down to this zone? Well, maybe not, right? We can see that potentially we have the ability to stabilize in this higher zone. And I'm going to show you why on the log scale chart here. So we're going to go to the log scale again. We can see the 104 is right down there, and you can see that the 157 is right up there next. But if we put on the Bollinger Band, we can clearly see on the weekly chart that it hit resistance of the top of the band this week. This is kind of why I did not want to break out further. That top of that band was basically 130.41. You can see it right here. And with that, we can see that maybe it's not ready to go higher. Perhaps it does need to go lower. So if we want to see how low it wants to go, do we need to just look at these fibs, or can we actually just go to the monthly chart here and take a look at what's developing on the monthly Bollinger Band? And I think the answer is yes, right? We can look at it and we can see that it's still riding this monthly band as a support. It's still expanding to the downside, this monthly band. So we can take a look at the top of this band. The upper band does sit, you can read it right over here. It says upper BB 118.06. So this could possibly be our support zone next week, right? It does move. So wherever price opens up next week, this number could change. But essentially, we're going to see if this upper monthly Bollinger Band can maintain as a support. And if it can continue to stabilize as a support, then perhaps it can keep being pushed up to the 140s, the 150s, and maybe higher. So this is our first level of support we're going to watch on the monthly Bollinger Band. And if it starts to go back below it a little bit, then we'll start to look at the linear based fibs again, maybe the 108 or the 114. The blue level of my GAN could be the possibility. But right now, this is my main focus, right? If we're staying on top, if we're riding the upper Bollinger Band as a support the whole time, then it can still continue to push price higher. We're just a little bit extended right now at the 130 zone. So with that, we can see that maybe next week we could get another back test, maybe even another wick below down towards that 114 zone again too. But I'm going to be watching this upper Bollinger Band the most next week. That's basically all I think is necessary until we get some confirmation that maybe it doesn't want to hold as support below. But regardless, even if Palantir did go back down to the 114 zone, whatever, it's still building a nice foundation on top of a previous resistance level. And that's going to give it the opportunity over time to just build a nice foundation and then go to the 130s, 140s, and 150s above.